Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast today. My name is Andy Wilson, and I'm your host today, and we're going to talk servant leadership. I hope you really enjoy this today because I will tell you my guest today, Matthew Loveless. Matt, welcome to Servant Leader Podcast.
Andy, thanks so much. And brother, it's so good to see you.
Man.
I appreciate you so much, what you're doing. Man, thanks so much for what you did at Walmart, the Social Center.
Yeah.
The church, when you're executive pastor there and so many things. And you are a true servant.
Well, thank you.
Thank you,
Matt. You're a kind man. And I will tell you, we're going to get in today for our guests. We're going to get into servant leadership. What is servant leadership? Definitions. We're going to tell some stories today. There was a story that I'm going to tell at the end that had a huge impact on my life. And just in our visit with Matt a moment ago, I found out that he knows this gentleman that's recently passed away, that I'm going to tell the story. So that even makes it more impactful because he's passed it on, and that's servant leadership in a way.
That is,
Matt.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You bet.
So Matt, we worked at Walmart together.
We did.
Man,
we did.
What a great
some great days
we had.
We did.
So Matt, what are you doing? How many years are you at Walmart now? What are you doing now?
Yes, sir. So Andy had 24 years at Walmart, blessed with a great career. Was in operations, ran 3 high-volume supercenters, a senior buyer, was in marketing and logistics. Then pivoted and went into Acosta sales and marketing. Clayton Crosby brought me over there. And, a quick story, Clayton, a tremendous servant leader during Hurricane Katrina, actually worked up there in a war room for about 5 days. Didn't leave the office.
Wow.
But was serving the folks there. Was there 3 years in new business and in selling. And then after that, joined the team with Mike Moore and Anderson Sales and Marketing, Anderson Merchandisers. Was there 3 years as well. But 7 years ago, Andy, took an opportunity and kind of started my own thing where small LLC and just helping small to mid-sized suppliers and selling to other retailers and kind of that hybrid broker appeal. And it's been fun. I love to serve others.
Good.
It's fun to pass the ball to others and see them succeed.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And how's your family?
Family's doing great. Mary Beth, oldest daughter, she's 27, married to Michael. She's down at Washington Regional, serving as a nurse in cardiology. She loves it. Happy for them. Luke, Michael, he is a basketball coach at Siloam Springs and coaches basketball in the 8th grade, teaches 7th grade. And then John Thomas, JT, will be 18 this August, and he's at BHS in Bentonville. And he loves to sing, loves to serve others, and in theater. And yeah, it's been a blessing.
Great.
Thank you, man.
Great. Well, when you think servant leadership, who do you think of? Who comes to your mind?
I tell you, immediately, it's our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ in serving others. But I think of Abraham Lincoln. I think of Martin Luther King. I think of Sam Walton. I think of my dad.
Tell us why you think about your dad.
My dad, Andy, was a high school basketball coach for over 20 years. I remember as a little boy when he was in Atlanta, Missouri, coaching then. It was a big thing for me to ride on the big bus with the big rider. And I was there on the bench, serving the players their towels, getting water. But he was a tremendous servant leader. He was a father to those who did not have a father.
Oh, wow.
He led, motivated, very successful coach. We lost him about 4 years ago. He had a heart attack out mowing his grass. But I'll tell you, at his eulogy, I had the opportunity to give the eulogy. And a couple of things he taught me and taught others was, number one, stay close to Jesus. Number two, give your life away to serve others. And number three, choose joy. Joy is a choice. It's not happiness, but choose joy each and every day. And I miss him every day, Andy. He was my hero. But it was neat for me to see so many folks that he touched the lives of others in serving others.
Coaches have such great impact on all of us, and so anyway, those are three great points that you just shared. Now, as we shift gears a moment, you and I had an opportunity to spend a lot of years at Walmart that we talked about, and there were great leaders that surrounded us, no question about it. And I want to talk about, I know one of our favorite leaders, and that's David Glass.
Absolutely.
So, I tell people this, and all the years watching David, and in fact, I remember when Sam Walton, we were bird hunting in Falfurrias, Texas, and Sam would bring us down to bird hunt in January, and so for some reason, I always got to hunt with Sam, and I think it was that all these other men and women were I was one of the youngest guys there, and so I think they were like pushing me there or something. I don't know what they did, but they did something behind the scenes, I'm sure. But anyway, I remember Sam and I were out bird hunting, and old Roy's pup. This is okay. I know we're going to talk about David Glass. I got to tell you this story, Matt.
Yes.
Okay, so the truck that's at the museum,
right?
We're in that truck. Okay, and so so Sam, he loved to walk and hunt. So we would stop the truck. Now, these other yahoos that went down there, they would have these guides, and they'd ride. The dogs would be out. Then with dogs, they'd get off the truck, shoot the birds, and get back on the truck. But not with Sam. You parked the truck and you walked. And so maybe that's why I got to make it him. But we're walking that day, and it was the very first bird hunt. And now, think about this. I'm 30-ish years old. I'm on a bird hunt with Sam Walton, and so we're walking the Dog's Point, Matt. Now I for the first time, there's the chairman, there was O'Roy's pup and some more dogs, and the cubby flew up, and I didn't hit a bird, and Sam knocked a couple 3 down. So we're getting the birds, and he looks over at me. He called me Andrew a lot. He said, "Andrew, I don't think you hit a bird." And what he didn't know, when I raised that gun up, I was shaking. I was so nervous because, A, I don't want to shoot the chairman.
Right.
I definitely don't want to shoot the dog, Roy's pup.
Yes.
And so anyway,
man.
We sat down after that hunt, and we sat there. And David Glass had just joined the company, and he asked me a question. He said, "What do you think of David Glass, Andy? Have you met him, and what do you think of it?" And I said, "Well, I can tell you he's one of the smartest people in the room."
Absolutely.
He said, "Yeah, he's going to be a good one." That's exactly what he says. So anyway, when you think of David Glass as a servant leader, what do you think about Matt?
Well, Andy, I think what a story. I mean, thanks for sharing that. I think David, I think of as a humble servant. I had the wonderful opportunity in 1990 to interview with David, Mr. Glass, and he did not say much. The beady eyes were, fixed, but he let me, tell me about yourself, and I rambled. I was nervous, but I rambled. But he was a great listener, and I think that's one of the tributes that Mr. Glass, as he listened, he became one of the smartest guys in the room. He was very reserved. Very humble. When I was running Store One and Rogers, he would call me. What can I do for you, man? How can I help you? How can I help you, with the store being more profitable? One of the things he did teach me was get up every day and improve one thing about yourself, about the business. I mean, I know he was a competitor, but he studied people. He studied the surroundings, and just a tremendous person that people trusted. And you look his wonderful career at Walmart, but then he goes on, pivots with the Kansas City Royals, and that was a handshake deal with the Kaufman family because they trusted Mr. Glass. And then they won a World Series in 2015. And I know he was so proud of that moment. Just fantastic. And that, as you see currently, locally, his granddaughter Mackenzie has the Mr. Glass documentary out about his life, and just a tremendous servant.
When I was a regional vice president at Walmart, again, it's back in early days, and Walmart was not in food yet. But we were talking about it.
Yes.
We were talking about food because that's one of the reasons David came in, because of his food background.
Yes.
And so I walked down to his office one day, and I was in charge of the southern part of the United States at the time, and in the stores there. And I just walked in his office and I said, Mr. Glass, I would like to travel. I would like for you to consider traveling with me and spending a couple of days with me. And I would like to learn from you. And he agreed right there. We booked it. And so we're gonna travel together in a couple of weeks. And he said, I want to go to to New Orleans market. And so I said, one of the things I want you to do is teach me food. Because, there was so much conversation around food. So we got to New Orleans, and we walked into, he knew all the food retailers. So he said, this is where I want to go. So we walked in, and he said, let's grab a hot dog. And we did. And so we started walking the counters, and he started talking food. And I mean, he knew all the food suppliers. He knew detail of each food. So he starts talking to me about food. Now I'm trying to take notes. Finally, I threw the hot dog in the trash can, threw the drink in the cash can. Yeah. I got my legal pad out, and I just said, I'm listening.
Wow.
And I started making notes on all the things he was saying. And we spent about an hour in that store walking up in every aisle and him just talking about food and his vision and what are the great brands, brands that are private label. He would talk about that. And then one of the things he said to me, we walked down this aisle with water, had the water. He went, now, Andy, water, this was in the late 80s.
Okay.
He said, now water will become the number one selling liquid. And I said, over soda? He said, oh, absolutely. It will become number one. The future is in water. Wow. And from that standpoint, well, look at today.
Yeah. And Andy, thanks for that story. But look at, what if Walmart didn't get into food?
Oh, I know.
I mean, it's incredible. And the growth that Walmart's had, Sam's Club.
Right.
I'm so appreciative and so thankful that Mr. Glass had that vision and Walmart was able to pivot and do it.
But, I think let's go back, Mr. Glass. There's so much we could talk about him. But the thing that you said, he was humbled. He was a great listener.
Yes.
He was very knowledgeable. He served by listening and sharing his ideas and his knowledge. But he let you go do it.
Yes.
When we toured those stores in Louisiana, those two, we spent 2 days there. He made suggestions to me how to make them great. And I never felt threatened as a young leader. I never felt anything, but he was here to help me.
You bet.
And to give me wisdom and knowledge. I think servant leaders do that.
Absolutely. I think, Mike Duke was a great leader for us as well at Walmart. And he kind of talked about freedom within that framework.
Right.
And Mr. Glass did that. And
he did.
Gave you confidence that day that, you know what, I could learn about food and, hey, let's go do this thing. So,
absolutely.
Such a great example.
What is your definition as you think, Matt, about servant leadership, this topic? And I know you spent a lot of time thinking about it because you're a servant leader also. You are. I've watched you at Walmart. I watched you in the stores. I watched you in the home office. And you were always there to serve the people, to help them so they would do better and get their job done and help the stores. You're always focused on that in the people. What is your definition?
It's pretty simple. I mean, there's various styles of leadership, Andy, out there, but I see it as empowering, encourage, and really serving others. One of the best books I ever read, other than the Bible, would be The Purpose-Driven Life. And the first sentence in there by Rick Warren is, it's not about me.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And there is no greater joy, I believe, Andy, passing the ball, holding folks accountable, but seeing them flourish in their career, giving them confidence, and just being able to help them out in their career or help somebody get a job and encourage them. That's how I see it.
Right. So what are the definitions you have of individuals that had an impact in your life?
Hey, I tell you, there's been many. I think of Tom Coughlin. I had the opportunity. He came to me and he just said, "Hey, I've been watching you. You engage with people. I like your positive attitude. Come work for me." And I thought, what? You know, I didn't really know Tom that well, and had the opportunity to work for him for 2 years directly, and then pivot and go into something else. But you know, he was big on General George Patton. You know, a good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan next week, right?
I think he had a sign hanging on his door or something about that, right?
But it was sense of urgency, right? But Tom had the hugest heart for people.
Yeah.
The hourly associates that got it done. The store managers, the assistant managers, everybody in the store. And I remember you would too, but there was a meeting, I believe a year beginning meeting. And this was when we were highly competitive with Kmart. And he mentioned, you know, get out there and go comp Kmart and get after it. And every store manager and co-manager the next week was out, you know, comping against Kmart. But he, you know, he taught me. We were touring a store in Springfield, Missouri, a story that he asked about my sister. He said, you know, tell me about your family. And my sister at the time was down at SMS in Springfield. She was a student. And he said, well, what does she like to do and interests? And I said, well, she was talking about, you know, doing some grilling, but she doesn't have a grill. And he said, let's go get her a grill. And I said, Tom. And he said, no, we're going to go buy her. He goes, I want to buy her a grill. He'd never met her before. And we go up to the apartment, and of course I called her, and he presents her a small grill. And, you know, that's Tom. Yeah. Then you fast forward, and Andy, my sister Melissa, who is a teacher locally at Bentonville, teaches kindergarten, has been teaching and serving for over 18 years, but has a leaky valve in her heart, had some complications. And I called Tom, and I said, hey, is there anything we could do to help Melissa get into the Cleveland Clinic? Makes a couple of calls, and in 3 days, her and Craig, my brother-in-law, are on a plane to Cleveland Clinic to see the physicians. That's Tom Coughlin.
Yeah. And Tom, you're right. Tom was, and you know, so many servant leaders do those kind of things behind the scenes, quietly, and it's not about that. You know, that's a great story. Thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely.
It really is. And who else?
Oh, I think of Russ Robertson. In fact, Tom said when he brought Russ into the office, and he said, you know, Matt, he said, you're going to become great friends with Russ. And he's been a dear friend for over 30 years. When I had a crisis in my life, Russ was right there, Andy, and we all will have trials and tribulations in our life. He was right there for me. He's a faithful friend, very steadfast. He's very common, very humble. Has, you know, given his life away in investing in others and serving. He served my 3 kids. He mentored them, took them fishing, took them out to his cabin and talked about work ethic, how to shoot a gun. So he, you know, you look at Russ Robertson, and back when he was in Columbia, Missouri, Russ took care of Mr. Sam's dad, Tom.
Yeah.
And
Mr. Walton.
Mr. Walton. And
that's right.
A lot of folks don't know that.
Yeah.
Russ is he's one of my heroes in life, and just a great servant leader.
I remember Mr. Walton coming to the Saturday morning meetings sometimes. Occasionally he would show up, you know, occasionally.
Yes.
What an opportunity we had to not only hang out with some of these leaders we were talking about, but when Mr. Walton would come down and from Columbia.
Yes.
And attend the Saturday morning meetings. What
That's
stories.
Awesome.
You know, the current leader of Walmart today.
Oh,
you know, talk about him for a moment.
I love Doug. Doug's been a great friend of mine. I'm blessed to call him friend for over 30 years. And I met Doug through another friendship, Stacy, when I was in college, but met Doug. And here's the thing about Doug. I knew Doug would do wonderful, great things, Andy, way back there. Yeah. He's competitive. He's humble. He cares. He makes you believe. And really, we just had a great friendship on the basketball court at his dad's house. Every Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock, after church and a meeting, we'd go play hoops. And his dad was a dentist and a great servant leader. Doug's grandfather was a pastor, but Doug cares. Quick story, we had a tornado in Bentonville, Rogers area many years ago, and there were about 8 homes, Andy, a street down from us that were leveled. No one had perished.
Yeah.
Here comes Doug at 1 o'clock, knocking on our door. Matt, I just want to make sure you're okay. My dad said that the tornado came over to your house and was close. He said, I just wanted to check on you.
Yeah.
I had a heart issue and was blocked in the Widowmaker. Had a stent put in there in the hospital. Here comes Doug and Shelley the next day to visit me in the hospital, and just he's so caring, and loves people. You know, when there's a lot of chaos, Doug simplifies things. He keeps it simple. Works on the fundamentals, and you look at Mr. Glass mentored Doug, and Doug was very focused, obviously, as a merchant on EDLP, and just a great servant leader. He is.
Let's do this. You've given some great examples of people that has impacted your life. Okay, no question about it. And here's what I'd like to do next. I'd like us to think about and discuss, and let's give our viewers and listeners let's call it some characteristics. Okay.
You bet.
Let's do that, and let's walk through those together. And anyway, so get us started with that.
Yeah, I think when you think of servant leadership, Andy, I think of humility, right? I think of being empathetic, of being attentive in action. Here's the deal, too. It's not, when I think of a servant leader, they're not soft.
Exactly.
Right?
I know no servant leader that's soft.
Right.
I would promise you, David Glass wasn't soft.
No, it either was Mr. Walton, right?
Or Tom Coughlin, or anyone else
or Doug McMillan. I mean, they get after it.
Yeah, they're not soft at all.
No.
So don't misunderstand this as soft leadership.
Right.
It's tough leadership.
Yes.
But
courageous.
Courageous leadership, but done with humility and empathetic. Right.
And I think they listen with their heart, and they really listen and then do something about it.
Right.
Or maybe have the tough, courageous conversations. I think that they empower and develop. I mean, I think how my dad taught me, pass the ball, Matt.
Yeah.
See others flourish, score, win. They're a winner. They serve and inspire others.
Right.
The issue on communication, they collaborate. To your great story with Mr. Glass and up and down the counters at the food retailer, I mean, it was a collaborative tour.
Exactly.
But he taught you food, and you were able to gain some confidence on food that, hey, man, we can go do this.
Well, back then, I was glad I didn't get fired that day. I was traveling with the CEO, president. I was writing about it. And then my buddy said, wait, Andy, you actually invited him to go with you? You don't do that.
That was a courageous move.
I want to learn. But you're right. Collaboration, communication. And, when Dave and I were touring my stores there in Louisiana that day, there were issues, and he was very firm about these issues need to be fixed.
You bet.
But you know what? I knew that I wasn't threatened by it, but I knew that he was right, and we needed to take care of those things, and we did.
Absolutely.
But you're right that it's not soft leadership.
And I think, Andy, for me, humbly, there is no greater feeling to help someone out and see them, promote them, see them do great, and you're seeing them flourish with confidence.
Yeah.
That's joy. I mean, that is one of the greatest things, and you've done it, Andy. Yeah. And I mean, I remember you opening up stores in the West Division, and the Olympics happened in Atlanta, and you had the stores looking pristine, merchandising, and you did it.
Yeah. Well, we had great leaders around us. We had high expectations.
Yes.
But there were servant leaders, all the men and women, and I think back of all at Walmart, the men and women that had huge impacts in my life. They helped me to a high accountability and high execution. But they did these characteristics you just talked about. And I agree with that.
Absolutely. And I think, one thing is kind of that ministry of presence. I think of John Butler. I worked for John.
Yeah.
Kind of the last years at Walmart, and he kind of called them Monday morning huddles, but we did them every day at about 8.
Right.
This was in the office, and just huddled around.
Right.
Talked about sales. Talked about what's going on on our desks.
Right.
And then any other motivational or quotes the folks had, but it brought us together, gave us confidence. And John was one of those, was a great listener. Yeah. And, from a personal standpoint, Andy, we were touring a store, 5260 in Rogers, and I get the call from Mom, hey, your dad doesn't have a pulse, was mowing the yard, please come get me. I left there. Well, I get to the hospital, John was already there. And then Dad's passed away, and John's the first guy I see, and I lost it. And he just gives me a hug. Didn't say a word.
Yeah.
But he was there.
Yeah. And that's what we have to do as servant leaders. Always just be there, be present.
Absolutely.
This is awesome, Matt. I love our conversation.
Thank you, man.
There's a story that I've learned now that you know this story, and I want to try to tell it the best I can. And but when I was CEO of the Soderquist Center, and that's Don Soderquist, who was the vice chair at Walmart, and we founded the Center for Leadership and Ethics at John Brown University. Well, Don knew just about everybody in the world, so I got to meet a lot of people in the 7 years leading the organization, and we worked with companies around the world. But one day, Don had invited Truett Cathy, who's the founder of Chick-fil-A, to one of our executive meetings that we had with leaders we brought in from around the world. And so his son, Dan Cathy, Truett's son, Dan Cathy, is going to take over as president, CEO of the organization. And so Truett, we were talking about this in this meeting, and that Truett was telling us about this upcoming meeting. Dan was going to pass the torch to his son.
Right.
Now there was a guy that was running the company. There was a guy named Jimmy Collins, and Jimmy had been with the company for over 30 years. And now it's time for Dan Cathy to step up. And he's been in training, he's been learning, he's been working with his dad, he's been working. So in other words, the story here, he didn't get put in until he was ready.
Right.
And so now they're in this big meeting, and the owner-operators are about 500 people in this meeting. And so anyway, Dan Cathy does what he does. He steps up, he delivers a really great talk about what since he now is the CEO, what his expectations in the company is. And then so he talked about the continuing of the culture in the company. Anytime there's a change of leadership, think of Walmart. We think of our culture. What's it going to do to the culture? Will it impact the company? Because so many of us work in organizations where we love the culture. And then when leadership changes, what do we get nervous about? Are they going to? Yeah. Right, the culture now becomes part of that. So that's what the talk in the organization is. Okay, we know that Dan is Truett's son, but is he really going to be as good as Jimmy or Truett? And what's he going to do on the culture? Dan realized his challenge here.
Right.
His challenge was, what are people when I'm done? What are the people who lead the stores, lead this organization, what are they going to lead with? And I think what he did, and I'm gonna demonstrate what he did in a minute, but what Dan did, he pulled out this, which my friend Matt brought to me this morning. This is a shoe brush. And so Matt walks into the studio this morning and hands me this. But what Dan Cathy did, he pulled out the shoe brush. And so he asked one of the longest term owner-operators in the audience to come up to the stage. And what Dan did, he got down on his knees and he brushed his shoes. That's pretty powerful.
That's really powerful.
And then he looked at the audience and he said, then he's under every chair. And now, well, first thing, his executive team, his leadership team took and walked down to the audience, who are the owner-operators, and brushed their shoes.
Wow.
Then he told the owner-operators that under your chair is a bag, and they opened the bag and it's a shoe brush. I don't think it was worn as a shoe brush.
No,
but anyway,
that was my dad.
Was this your dad's shoe
Yeah,
brush?
I'm giving it to you as a gift.
Absolutely, man. But anyway, then he asked the owner operators to go back and to brush the shoes of the team members there at the Chick-fil-A stores. Well, you know, his message was this: Chick-fil-A is a company that's led by servant leaders. What he wanted the owner operators to go back. He could just said it, go back and do this.
Sure.
But what we've talked about today, servant leadership is more than words. It's actions. That every story you told was action.
Yes, sir.
Every time, and I didn't tell you what stories to tell. These were your stories.
Yes.
I just asked you to have some stories.
Right.
I didn't have any idea who you was going to have. But every story was action. It was action-oriented.
You bet.
By doing something, not just saying it, but doing something. And that's what Dan Cathy was doing that day. He was with an action saying, we're going to continue to be servant leaders in this company. That's going to be my focus. And we're going to serve the people in the stores. And that's exactly what happened. And when you and I, when people left that meeting, you know, we heard back from a late friend of ours, Scott Clark.
Absolutely.
Talked about when people left that meeting that servant leadership was going to be number one at Chick-fil-A.
It gives me chills.
Yeah.
And Scott was a model of servant leadership.
He was.
He was a cell group leader for my son, Luke, our middle son, Luke, and he modeled it not only at the store with his associates, but outside, and he was very active, very active. And like you said, any actions speak louder than words. And it could be a simple note of encouragement, a phone call, a text, whatever that is, but it's action.
Yeah.
And many of our great servant leaders that have helped us were very action oriented.
Right.
And I think the challenge that they challenged me, and I know yourself, Andy, was, hey, go get 10 or 15 folks, challenge them, help them, serve them, and make them better leaders.
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
Well, Matt, wow.
Hey,
what a great conversation.
Andy, thank you.
No,
thank you for your heart and for what you're doing, and incredible career. And, you know, you're not out there retired from Walmart. You're serving. You're serving others. And I would challenge everybody, just take a look at ourselves and write a letter of encouragement or a thankful letter to a coach, a teacher, a leader, and tell them thank you and why. We've had many of them, and many have passed on and are in heaven today, and hopefully we're living out their legacy.
And that's exactly what we have to do, is live like our legacy.
Yes, sir.
Well, a few things in closing. I think the characteristics that you shared are very important, and we're gonna have those listed today. In fact, this conversation we've had today, we'll also have that listed. Many of these points for you to not only to share, but learn. But we're going to encourage you to share these things on servant leadership. We got to keep this going. This is we live in one of the greatest countries in the world. We need to have some of the greatest leaders in the world, and we've had great impacted. Our lives have been greatly impacted by all this. Yes, sir. Yeah. So, Matthew, thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you. And our listeners, thank you all for listening today and watching today. And you'll hear a lot more about our future podcasts on servant leadership. So make sure you stay tuned for that. So thank you very much. Matt, thank you again. It's been a pleasure, my friend.
Appreciate you.
Okay. All right. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.